trickery. If you're not paying attention, you're probably getting tricked. So today, I'll talk about the supposed benefits of starting a colony on Mars. So you'll hear people talk about one of the benefits of starting a colony on Mars. Let's forget about the technical aspect of that to begin with. Let's just assume that we can do it. We can move millions of, well, not millions, thousands of people to Mars, and they're able to sustain themselves independent of Earth. Let's even go that far, right? So the benefit that people talk about is you have this society that is now free of all the bureaucracy of the Earth, and people can start all over again, and there'll be more equality, and so on and so forth. I mean, essentially what people are really doing, they're taking Mars, and then they're imposing their fantasy about what a utopia world should be, and simply because it's not Earth, so they're saying, well, hey, I know it's hard to achieve utopia on Earth, but there's this other place called Mars, and if we can manage to somehow create a stable colony there, then it could be utopia, because we're starting again. Well, no. The matter of fact, I'm going to show you in a second that it is going to be considerably worse than Earth, right? And here's why. And number one, unlike Earth, literally everything on Mars is going to be controlled by some other human being. Why? Because there's nothing on Mars that we can use in its original form. So anything that we do use is something that was created by another human being. And if a human being is going to create something, there's going to be two things associated with it: cost and control. So let's look at the actual things that I'm talking about. So on Earth, no matter, as long as you're free to move, you can always find air, you can always find water, and you can always find food. Basically, there's a concept on Earth that you can live off the grid if you so choose to. Now, it will be harder, but you can go into the woods and you can try to make a living. You can try to survive. You'll survive for a second or so. Well, not a second. You'll survive as long as you're able to withstand whatever hard work that comes with it. It's possible. You don't want to be found? You can just go someplace on this vast Earth and be left alone. As long as you're willing to accept that you're not going to have the benefits of modern society or society at all. So that's fine. You know, if you have a problem with a particular government or somebody's looking for you for the wrong reasons, let's say you're a truth teller or you're like you're a critic of the government or whatever authority that happens to be in control in a particular area you're in on Earth, you can always go to somewhere else as long as, once again, you're willing to live without the benefits of modern society. So now let's go to Mars. On Mars, number one, we know that the atmosphere is not breathable, which automatically means that wherever you go, whatever oxygen you're breathing is going to be artificial by necessity, because there isn't any oxygen on Mars. Not to mention, even if there were, the air pressure is too thin. So that's the first thing. You're going to need air. Second thing is, once again, there's no water on Mars. So whatever water you've got is going to be something that was generated by a machine or brought to Mars by a spacecraft. Well, actually, most likely, not even most likely, it will be generated by a machine, because whatever water you may have, gotten from Earth will be long gone. Okay. So, and food, because there is no natural food source, once again, that in itself is going to be generated by a machine. So the bottom line comes to this. You got air, you've got water, and you got food. All those things need to be produced. And guess what? The machines to produce air isn't going to be cheap. The machine that's going to produce water isn't going to be cheap. The machine that's going to produce food is definitely not going to be cheap. So now you take those three things. you're going to need somebody. It's not even going to be somebody, but you're going to need, well, it could be somebody through a group of people that are going to create these resources. And because they create these resources, they're going to control these resources. So whenever these people feel that, for whatever the reason is, they don't like your opinion or the way you're acting, it's very easy for them to cut those things off of you. And even if they don't cut it off, they can just raise the cost of acquiring those things, right? So they're totally in control of your life. And if you decide that, hey, I don't want to live in this colony anymore, you can't go anywhere. Because, as I said earlier, Mars doesn't support life. So therefore, you always have to be in an artificial environment. An artificial environment is not cheap to create. Most likely, an artificial environment is going to be controlled first by the government and then by corporations ultimately. That's just how democracy and capitalism works. So in the end, you go to Mars, it's going to be a lot worse. If you think it's the freedom of speech and your voice being suppressed on Twitter or Facebook or whatever, that's a big deal. You go to Mars, if the authorities don't like you, they won't let you breathe. Simple as that. You won't have any air because you cannot afford the air. You're not going to be able to afford water. Everything is going to cost a lot. And the worst part, like I said, you cannot hide because hiding requires you to leave the expensively built habitat and create your own, which you're not as an individual. Anyway, that's another thing to think about when people talk about the benefits of living on Mars. Another random discussion. I'll talk to you later.